Okay, we have the green light, Toby.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm going to jump in here and I want to start by apologizing. I am moving about. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brenda Lee. I am part of Interfaith Action Movement. And I'm going to jump in here because I know we can't get started without our own leader, Reverend Derek L. Green, to kick us off. But I do want to introduce him before we get started. And I want to apologize. I am in my car, as you can see. However, nothing can keep me away when I got the call not so long ago to come on here because of the remarkable work my sister's Lighthouse does every single day. And also just to be a part of a team that is led by our own Reverend Green. I'm just so elated. Reverend Green, as you know, is a well-respected, nationally and internationally known faith leader. He is the guru on policy because I know him so well. I could pretty much just speak to his bio without actually reading it, but also want to note that Reverend Green has a master's from Rutgers Newark, should I say bachelor's, and a master's in Maryland University. Also in public science. We just honor you, Rev Green. We also recognize that Reverend Green most recently was the senior advisor to our own governor right here in the state of New Jersey, Governor Phil Murphy. And I think history will speak to the amazing policy work that Phil Murphy has done. And it has occurred because of the leadership of Reverend Green. Reverend Green has been part of or was part of the Phil Murphy campaign for both terms. It has been decades before a Democratic governor actually was reelected for consecutive terms. And it has a lot to do with Rev Green, but more importantly, it has a lot to do with his policy mind and the impact that he has made in the state of New Jersey and the key focus on our communities. He has done a lot of work around trauma-informed care. You've gone to these webinars before. In addition to that, Reverend Green ensures that there are resources that are funneled through the state government to these different agencies and grassroots organizations that are on the ground doing the work every single day. I could say so much more about Rev Green, but just to say that he does this work not for accolades and not for to hear his own name, but to impact the community in which he loves deeply. And so he's done a lot of work in Maryland right now, but continues to do work right here in the great state of New Jersey. So Rev Green, hopefully I wasn't too long-winded. Hopefully I stuck to the script. But with all that said and done, we just applaud you for the work you're doing and applaud you for bringing so many amazing leaders in their own spaces on this webinar tonight. Again, I do apologize that I'm joining you from my car. So the next voice you'll hear will be none other than our own Reverend L. Green. We thank you, Rev Green, and I hope all the organizations that are gathered here will be able to take some information back to where the organizations in which you serve to be able to impact the lives of people that look like us. God bless you all.
And right before Reverend Green talks, Brenda, you did an outstanding job. I just want to mention also recent appointment by Governor Murphy, Reverend Green, to the Rutgers University Board of Trustees. So that's another great accomplishment, not just because I went to Rutgers, but great job there. And if he was on the Board of Trustees when I was there, he would have got me through. Praise the Lord.
Well, thank you, I know you're going to speak about the amazing work that Rev Green has also supported you with New Beginnings. And so I don't want to steal anyone's thunder. And thank you for stealing mine because you graduated from Rutgers University. Thank you very much. But it's more about the boards. It's less about the board, should I say, and more about the impact. So God bless you all, Reverend Green.
Thank you so much, Trustee Brenda Lee. Pastor Mayor, Trustee Brenda Lee, thank you for all that you do. One of our state's premier educators. You have been in the field of education for many years. I don't know, you must have started when you were 10. because you've been working a long time to educate our children, the most vulnerable of our youth, and you've done it with distinction. We appreciate and honor your service to the Interfaith Action Movement as one of our moderators. And thank you so much for that introduction. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to I Am and My Sister's Lighthouse webinar series, Let's Talk. And we are super excited to launch our series tonight with some of the most amazing professionals and speakers in the world. And I am delighted to be a part of once again this season. This is now, I think, our 4th season doing this. And we are delighted and honored to be here on this evening. The Interfaith Action Movement was started in 2020 at the very beginning of the pandemic. And we got together as a conference call. God said, Reverend Green, you must pull people together and pray. And we did that. And then when I'm just an organizer, that's all I am. God said, now organize. So the first half was prayer, because that's the foundation. Prayer brings us closer to God, allows us to communicate with God. And then the second half was action, getting involved in policy issues that impact people's lives. Our mission is to address the spiritual, social, and economic needs of underserved and marginalized communities throughout the state, nation, and the globe. And we're doing just that. We meet every day, and we'll put the information in the chat, and also we'll at the end, because this is being recorded, because it's going to be on the new I Am Zoom YouTube channel. The I Am YouTube channel, thanks to Brother Curtis, our technical director, young brother college student out there in Texas, who I met at Afrotech 2 years ago. And so now we have our own YouTube channel. We're excited about it. That way people can look at it over and over again and pass it in and share it. We're going to ask everybody to share this webinar, because you can't pay enough to get what you're going to get tonight and the months coming. The speakers tonight, who I will introduce later, will all they'll be a part of our series from February through July. Tonight we are introducing them together, but the months of February through July, they will be our special guests on the Let's Talk series, because they are the top of their fields around in the globe, and so we're delighted to have them. Let me just sort of tell you about the purpose of the series. The Let's Talk webinar series is a monthly trauma-informed conversation series designed to address mental health, healing, and resilience through faith-based, clinical, and community-centered perspectives. The goal is to reduce stigma, increase access to resources, and foster safe dialogue across communities. Kickoff session objective. This kickoff session serves as an introduction to the series, the speakers, and the topics that will be explored over the coming months. It's not intended to be a deep dive tonight, but rather a foundation-setting conversation. And we're excited about this for the months to come, and these presenters, particularly as it relates to our people, African-American, Black and brown folks. We've been taught, Dr. Stephanie, to hide it used to be against the law for us to show emotions. We would see our ancestors being lynched in front of us. We'd see our wives being raped in front of us. We see our children being taken and killed in front of us and couldn't do anything. And so we were programmed to take the medicine, Jody, deal with it. And we're not going to do that any longer. Our campaign is to end trauma and systemic trauma. It is my honor to present the founder and CEO of our co-host tonight, the founder and CEO of My Sister's Lighthouse, Sister Jacqueline Limehouse. Jacqueline Limehouse is a survivor, advocate, and nationally recognized speaker with over 25 years of experience in domestic violence advocacy. She holds degrees in psychology and public administration and is pursuing a Doctor of Psychology degree. As founder of My Sister's Lighthouse, she has led support groups, batterers, intervention programs, and large-scale community awareness efforts. Jacqueline uses her powerful personal story as a survivor and creative expression to inspire healing, empowerment, and transformation. And lastly, Sister Jackie, I am so grateful that Mother Mildred Crump, my mama, asked me to get to know you, and it's been a blessing. God bless you, Sister Jackie. You have the floor.
Hey, good evening. Thank you, Reverend Green. I am and speakers for this great opportunity. Thank you to everyone who made the time to be here tonight. Let's Talk was born out of the understanding that healing begins when silence ends. For many of us, trauma has been normalized, minimized, and spiritualized away, and that has caused harm. This series is intentional. It centers lived experience, professional experience, expertise, and faith without judgment. Whether you're a survivor, a caregiver, a faith leader, or someone seeking understanding, this space was created with you in mind. Before I begin, I want to invite you to take a deep breath. Just one big deep breath, because many of us in our daily lives, in our struggles, and in our work, we forgot to take that breath to say we made it through today. I needed that. Friends, colleagues, and community members, I'm here today to talk about something that is often whispered behind closed doors, but needs to be shouted from the rooftops. I ask that we put down the heavy mantle of strength just for a moment to take a look at the cracks that this pressure has created. We are here to have a necessary, urgent, and loving conversation about mental health, the impact of generational trauma, and the silent crisis of domestic violence in the African American community. We come from a lineage of incredible strength, resilience, and brilliance. We are the architects of joy and survival, but we also carry heavy armor. Far too long, that armor, that strong Black woman, that invincible Black man persona has been used to hide deep pain, unresolved trauma, and the realities of domestic violence. We've been taught to keep on keeping on, to pray it away, to fear that seeking help is a sign of weakness or a betrayal of our community. But I am here to tell you that our silence is killing us, and the tradition that has been passed on, what happens in the home stays in the home, has hurt us more than it has helped us. When we ignore the mental health burden caused by systematic racism, microaggressions, and generational trauma, we are not being strong, we are suffering. When we ignore the fact that over 40% of Black women experience intimate partner violence in their lifetime, and the fact that this often happens in silence, we are failing our sisters, brothers, and families. Today is not about shame. Today is about liberation. We are here to dismantle the stigma. We are here to say that it's okay to not be okay. We are here to bridge that gap between our faith, our traditions, and the professional care we deserve. Healing does not make us weak. Addressing our traumas does not make us less resilient. It makes us whole. As the saying goes, we are injured individually, but we heal in community. Breaking generational trauma is not easy, but it is possible. It requires intentional action. It requires courage to say, the cycle stops with me. Over the coming months, we will explore topics ranging from generational trauma, domestic violence, safety, trauma recovery, to neurodiversity, faith-based healing, men's mental health, and culturally responsive care. Tonight is about connection, getting to know the voices that will walk this journey with us, and setting the tone for the honest, trauma-informed conversations rooted in compassion, dignity, and hope. And again, thank you for being here. Thank you for being brave. And thank you for choosing to break the silence. Back to you, Reverend Green.
Sister Jackie, outstanding. Outstanding. I'm going to start calling you prophetess. Jacqueline Limehouse. That's awesome. And spot on, as we say, and I am. Now let's get right into it. Again, our speakers will be talking about topics that they will cover in the next several months. Go ahead and start sharing and invite. It's not too late for people to get on live and share this. because it's actually on our Facebook page as well. We're taping this live, so go ahead and share if you can. I am honored to introduce Dr. Brandy Walker, who will be our first speaker. Dr. Brandy is the founder of Voice for Neurodiversity. Dr. Brandy Walker is a licensed clinical and research psychologist and former Army officer with over a decade of experience serving service members, veterans, and families. She's the founder of Marie Pauline Consulting and Voice for Neurodiversity, a nonprofit focused on improving the quality of life and access to care for neurodiverse communities. Her expertise includes trauma, ADHD, autism, and holistic wellness. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Dr. Brandy Walker. Dr. Brandy, you have the floor. God bless you.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this conversation. Reverend Green, you know, it's an honor. I love the work that you're doing. Sister Jacqueline, thank you so much for the opportunity. Definitely appreciate the mission and purpose that you have embraced and have taken wholeheartedly. To my family, everybody that's on a panel, I love seeing you and I love the work that you're doing. So I'll be quick and brief because that's how it works. I'm watching the clock so I can make sure that I'm able to touch on a few things without talking too much. So as Reverend Green said, I am a clinical and research psychologist. I study behavior. I also ensure that the therapeutic approach that we take improves behavior as well as the way that we think about things and how we manage our emotions. I was in the military for 20-something years. In the last 10 years of my career, I actually was able to practice psychology with our service members and their families, as well as veterans who are not in the military anymore. And I'll tell you, probably the number one condition that we would see was anxiety. And if you know anything about trauma or PTSD, that is an anxiety disorder. We saw everything else that comes with that: anger, depression, suicidality, and all the contextual factors. And when we talk about contextual factors, we're talking about all the things that are happening in a person's life that could also cause problems or issues. And so Sister Jacqueline named a few, right? When we grow up, if you've been exposed to traumatic experiences, if you've been exposed to unhealthy relationships, communication that could happen in a classroom environment, or, you know, between a mom and a dad, as well as siblings. Some of those things could potentially be traumatic or just stressful or harmful. So this conversation is really for everybody. And domestic violence is a number one. It's a number one cause. I won't say the number one cause, but it is a primary cause for some of the things that we grow up and see and a lot of the secrets that we keep. So my work is in the realm of treating those conditions, trauma, depression, anxiety, but also in the realm of neurodevelopmental conditions. Neurodevelopmental conditions fall in the category of ADHD, autism, being gifted can even fall in the realm, dyslexia, all the type of things that tend to separate us in a classroom environment and are causing challenges with learning that look like behavioral problems. Quite a few fall into the category of a neurodevelopmental condition, which we have given a warm title, neurodiversity, to. So my organization, Villages, Overcoming Intersections, the Collaborative Empowerment for Neurodiversity, our work is to develop research and train parents, providers, educators, and anybody else wanting to learn about how to manage a neurodevelopmental condition, how to develop coping skills and strategies, and how to manage what often co-occurs like trauma symptoms or anxiety or depression. Pleasure to meet you. I look forward to having conversations about that. And thank you for the opportunity.
You're muted, Reverend Green.
You're muted, Rev.
Okay, got it. You all can hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Brandy, thank you so much. As always, spot on. Dr. Brandy hails from the mighty Kingdom of Wakanda, Prince George's County, Maryland, where Dr. Beverly is the Queen of Wakanda. So we will go ahead and put that on the record. If anybody knows about Prince George's County, it sits right outside of Washington, D.C., and in Maryland, and it is the home of considered one of the two wealthiest African American counties in the nation. Dr. Brandy, thank you so much for all that you do in addressing the issues related to neurodiversity, trauma, anxiety. For someone who suffered from anxiety in college, I know how crippling it can be. So we thank you for that. Reverend Newton, I'm going to make an audible real quickly because we have a guest that we asked to come on at the last minute, and she graciously said yes. And the reason why I'm going to push her up is because she is in China, everybody, in China. And it is actually very early in the morning there. And she got up to participate because of her commitment to mental health and trauma. And her own life story is amazing. I'm talking about none other than Jody Covington, Chief Executive Officer, the Brand Development Group. Jody D. Covington is an award-winning public relations and marketing professional, author, and Chief Executive Officer of the Brand Development Group, a graduate of Liberty University and Full Sail University, where she earned 2 master's degrees and graduated salutatorian with 4 Director's Awards. Jody has become a dynamic force in strategic communications and business development. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Jody Covington of the Brand Development Group. Jody, you have the floor.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Derek. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to share with this audience, with this community, our community, which obviously we're all extremely passionate about. Just a really, really brief thing. I just want to shout out, Reverend Green on a higher level. He's actually one of the reasons that I have my own business. I've been employed. Well, I've been a business owner since 2012, and Pastor Green, he said to me, we worked on a project. He says, I'm not writing you a check until you start your own business. He said, you will be a business owner. And he actually encouraged this and even gave me the name. And I went and done what he told me to do. And to this day, I am still going strong in my own business. So thank you. Thank you. I think we haven't publicly talked about how impactful you've been in my life, in my family's life. You've put me on a path that has created generational growth and wealth and legacy. So thank you for that. You heard a lot about my background just now in PR and marketing. What most don't know is I actually have a master's degree in psychology. I worked in mental health for about 7 years prior to switching my career to public relations and marketing. So I have 2 master's degrees, one in psychology and one in PR and marketing. Mental health has always been something that I'm extremely passionate about. And this particular topic is something that I didn't realize how passionate about it I was until I had an interaction with a Caucasian individual, a white person. While I was saying ally, they were trying to understand the systemic trauma. And I randomly, I put it like this. I said, if you think about 2 young girls that have been sexually abused, raped, physically abused. And let's take a look at these 2 scenarios, right? One young girl was able to see her abuser arrested. She was able to see her abuser punished and going to jail. She was able to get therapy. Her community rallied around her. She was able to get financing and counseling and able to be supported throughout her journey, you know. And then let's take that second little girl that went through the exact same experience, that did not see her abuser punished, that did not see him arrested, that did not get the support, that did not get the help. The community even blamed her for the reason that she was abused. Everywhere she went, she was known as something negative, something dirty, something that nobody wanted, something that nobody liked. And you take these two scenarios and you ask yourself, which one of these young girls are going to flourish? Which one of these young girls are going to do well in life? Which one are going to grow up to succeed? And more likely, right? The young girl that was able to see the abuser punished, the young girl that was able to get the support of the community to help her grow and thrive is going to do better in life. Statistically, right? Like yes, we can talk about, the resilient young lady that has gone through the mud, that pushed through and still was able to make a way. But more likely than not, it's going to be that girl that's going to come out on top, that saw the abuser punished. So when I framed it like that, I said, now let's put Black people in this situation, right? Let's put our community in this situation. And you have a community that may have gone through some trauma, but they were supported. They were given reparations. They were thriving. They were given land. They were given community. They were given all these different things. And we wonder why these communities are doing so much better. And you take it to our community, and then we look at the trajectory of our community. And this is not to downplay the success of our community, because we are resilient and we are the strong and the unstoppable and against all odds. And, we are still that, but we've had to be that with an immense amount of trauma. And for those that have really taken advantage of that resilience and that independent woman nature to make it, kudos, shout out, no hate from me, because I'm one of those. My story is one of those. I started off on welfare and food stamps and pregnant at 19, baby at 20, married at 21, divorced at 31, master's degrees, the whole 9 yards, been to 18 different schools in my life. My story is one of those stories of resilience and picking myself up and making sure I got on my way. But imagine if we had the level of support that other communities had, the therapy, the community. I think that we've already done well in spite of, but we would have been 10 times better if we would have been able to have that therapeutic approach to our trauma. So that's what I would like to speak about when my series comes up. And I also want to include, there are current studies. One of my clients, Dr. Karika Weldon from an organization called Cara Genetics, they're doing studies on the genetic studies on the impact of trauma to domestic violence victims and the like. I'm going to share the conversation that we're having tonight with her, because she would be fascinated and probably overwhelmed to also include the impact that the Black experience has had on our community from a genetic perspective, which I think is very, very cool. They're able to determine certain genetic markers now that indicate the level of trauma that people have come down. I also speak, and I'm wrapping, I'm gonna land my plane, as they say. I also speak very often about not just the trauma, but also how we can kind of get past this, how we can work through this, how we can do this through community. And this is a great forum to also do that and work through it. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to to speaking about this a lot more, because I think that our people need to hear that you're not just struggling because I watched a movie about our history, about our ancestry, about how our slave masters cut the babies out of our women's bellies and would stomp the babies. So the other pregnant women, the fear was in their loins.
Mm,
And this
mm.
fear is passed down, and we wonder why we see these movies and where I've never experienced slavery, right? I'm 2 generations removed from that, 3 generations removed from that. But when I see or I hear or I experience, I have this innate response to it. I am physically traumatized. I'm re-traumatized over and over again. And why is that? And that's the question. That's what I hope I hope we can get into, why every time I see a movie about slavery, I am physically moved. I am in tears. I feel their pain. I empathize and sympathize, even though I've never actually gone through that level. But I feel like I have. So thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to this, guys. This is fantastic.
Wow. Wow, Jody. Powerful, 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 powerful. And we look forward to your presentation. And please invite the doctor that you spoke of, your client, let her know what we're doing, because this needs to go everywhere with folks like you and others on this call. So just thank you. That was powerful, powerful. And I'm so glad that you started your business and the success that you're having around the world, and all that you do. So God bless you. Reverend Quavon Newton, pastor. And by the way, thank you for getting up so early, all the way in China. All right. That's very special. And be safe over there. Reverend Quavon Newton, pastor pastor of St. Stephen AME Zion Church, Asbury Park, the great city of Asbury Park, New Jersey, one of my favorite cities in the nation, on the water. From incarceration to Yale Divinity School, Reverend Quavon Newton's journey is one of redemption and purpose. He holds a Master of Divinity from Yale and is pursuing a Doctor of Ministry degree as well, which he will announce something that's going to happen next month. He is a co-founder of Black Boy Therapy LLC and serves as pastor of one of the fastest growing AME Zion churches in the entire denomination. Reverend Quavon Newton is a regular on I Am. We had trauma conference at his church last year, and it was such a blessing. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Reverend Quavon Newton.
Thank you, Reverend Green. I certainly appreciate this opportunity, as well as to Jacqueline Limehouse. Thank you for allowing me this time to continue to share and to partner with you all. Had a great time last year, and I'm looking forward to all that is to come this year, certainly, especially for these next 6 months. So thank you. And yes, I finally have my defense date. God willing, if I passed defense by February the 20th, I will hopefully, by God's grace, be Reverend Doctor.
Amen. Amen.
Pray with me, please. And as mentioned, my name is Quavon Newton. I'm the co-founder of Black Boy Therapy LLC, organization committed to educating, equipping, and empowering individuals and communities around mental health, particularly Black communities. And as we do workshops and sessions for all, we have a focus on Black boys. And our work, it sits at the intersection of mentorship, of course, mental health education, lived experience, faith, and healing. And for me personally, before any titles or credentials, what I dealt with in my childhood is what makes this work very personal for me. As you heard, my story is summarized from jail to Yale, and I'll be diving deep into what that into more of what's behind that in my session, and how the trauma and unprocessed trauma was really the root of a lot of what I dealt with, experience, and what I did. And what that phrase it doesn't fully capture is that whole entire internal journey, that the emotional and psychological work that had to happen for real change to take place. And for a long time, I thought that my struggles and what I've experienced and dealt with was simply about some bad decisions as a young man, or even a lack of discipline. But what I later came to understand is that many of my teenage and even early adult behaviors were shaped by unhealed childhood experiences.
Mm.
Uh, Things I learned to survive early in life, but never had the language or space to process. And that realization, it really changed everything for me. And it is the push and the motivation behind what I do. So the session that I'll be leading will be centered around when the past still hurt, focusing on how unresolved childhood trauma doesn't stay in childhood, but often shows up in adulthood through patterns like emotional reactivity, control, burnout, difficulties trusting others, or feeling constantly on edge. So this won't be a session about, just blaming, parents, caregivers, or circumstances. Instead, it's about really understanding about how survival shapes the nervous system, about how coping mechanisms can outlive their usefulness, and how healing can begin at any stage of life. So you can expect a clear, accessible understanding about what childhood trauma is, real life examples of how it shows up in our even adult behavior, teenage behavior, and the likes, language to name the experiences that many people feel but struggle to articulate, and a hopeful framework for healing that really centers awareness, compassion, and support. So the goal is, not just to diagnose, but to help to recognize patterns, to not shame, but to remind people that we are not broken, that we are often responding to things that we survived. So my hope is that this session helps participants walk away with a greater self-awareness, more grace for themselves, and a clearer understanding that healing is not about erasing the past. It is about learning how to move forward just a little differently. So I'm grateful to be a part of this experience, grateful to partner with all of these other great facilitators and participants, and to contribute to this space that takes mental health, healing, and honesty seriously. So thank you, thank you. That is what we are to expect, and I'm excited for it.
Spot on. And I'm going to tell everyone, we did this last year, and I can't tell you the response that we got. People asking, we need Dr. Newton and his team to come here. We need Dr. Newton and his team to come to this church or that school. Can you do the webinar? Oh, we did that webinar already 3 times from the first taping that we did. It's powerful. I'm a father of 3 children, 1 son and 2 daughters. And I care about my son's mental health as much as I care about my daughter's. And we send the wrong messages to Black boys who grow up to be Black men. And we need to make sure that we're sending those messages, Dr. Newton, those positive messages, retraining how they think of themselves. No hyper masculinity here. And Dr. Newton, you're doing an amazing job, and God bless you. And by the way, we were prophetic in calling you Dr. Newton a long time ago before you started this process.
Amen. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Our next guest, I am honored to present Dr. Beverly L. Robinson. And I'll just say this, that she and her husband have been a source of strength for me personally. They don't know how much, but they have been. Just seeing them together and how they operate and how their ministry together that's why I call them the king and queen of Wakanda. Dr. Beverly L. Robinson trauma-informed, and DEI practitioner, author, and chaplain. Dr. Beverly Robinson is an ordained elder, retired vice president of wealth management at Wells Fargo, and a global speaker on trauma, domestic violence, and spiritual wellness. She holds a doctorate in healthcare administration and brings decades of leadership experience across faith, healthcare, and community systems. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Dr. Beverly L. Robinson.
Thank you so much, Reverend Green. Thank you, Sister Limehouse, for hosting this forum. Anytime you do the work of the Lord, it is humbling, and this is very, very humbling for me. I will share that I am a non-licensed trauma-informed practitioner who does the legwork and the groundwork. I am the one who establishes the trust with the clients, because we know that in our community, we lack a great deal of trust when we are trying to convince our clients to talk to somebody, to talk to counselors, talk to therapists. So as a chaplain, as a person who talks with family and children and women's ministries, I get to establish the trust. I will be addressing the childhood trauma that goes into adulthood. And we see a great deal of that. The various forms such as abuse, neglect, witnessing violence, which is what I call the secondhand trauma. When you witness the violence, and I saw that myself, and I bring personal stories into what I share with you. These experiences can have long-lasting effects, as we know. Unhealed trauma can influence adult relationships by causing trust issues. We know as a people, we have trust issues for cause. We have fear of intimacy when women, men, boys, girls have been tricked into relationships that they thought were healthy and they were unhealthy. So we have created trust issues and fear of intimacy, difficulties in communication. We have found persons who have a hard time communicating because they have been told not to communicate. They have been told how to communicate. They have been interrupted when they have tried to communicate. There are mental health consequences. Those consequences for the unhealed childhood trauma and the mental health conditions, and I think Dr. Brandy spoke about it earlier regarding anxiety. I have personally witnessed persons who have had anxiety because of these unhealed issues. One young lady that I was talking with had an anxiety attack right in front of me, and she and I, standing against her refrigerator, both just fell to the floor together. And what she didn't need was a sermon right there. She needed somebody to hold her and to talk with. PTSD. Sometimes PTSD lies dormant until adulthood. We don't even realize children are suffering from PTSD, and they have mastered suppressing PTSD until they reach adulthood. And then there are the personality disorders that you spoke of earlier. Physical health effects. Trauma has really affected physical health. I've said so many times, if you're sick in the mind, sometimes it can play upon your body and it will push sickness upon your body. Chronic health issues, autoimmune diseases, substance abuse, using those substances as coping mechanisms. Emotional numbness. avoidance. We have seen persons you cannot even get eye-to-eye contact with because they are avoiding the conversations. Self-sabotage. I talked with a young lady who would cut herself. There are persons who will gain weight on purpose because they don't want to look attractive, because they're afraid of attracting the wrong element. As a Black community, we have just been taught and conditioned to avoid telling our family business to others. Thus, this leads to more trauma. We have childhood trauma that can be healed through talk therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is called CBT, trauma-informed care. There are so many cycles that have to be broken. And in fact, I was talking just recently, and I know for sure that through my DEI work, unhealed trauma sometimes shows up as racism. Racism is not natural. It is not normal, but most times it is taught. And when you are taught hate, it brings about trauma in your body, in your mind. So I will share with you, I carry childhood trauma. And I have worked in order to start the healing process because I'm a victim of childhood sexual abuse. So I can talk to that and I can share that because it happened to me, but I know that healing can take place. Reverend Green, I think you're still muted.
I think I'm just thinking about what you just said, and I think I was grunting like we do at church, Dr. Beverly, and the host muted me. So I couldn't get back on. Wow. That was powerful. Powerful. Thank you for your personal testimony. Thank you for breaking it down like that. I had never thought of racism is a trauma response. Wow. Yeah, we're going to get into that. We might have to do a special segment in February on that. We might have to do a special segment that racism is a trauma response. Dr. Stephanie, I know you're going to have something to say about that later. That we have Dr. Stephanie James Harris with us as well. She's our resident historian. That's powerful. I think I'm going to get the two of you all together on that. Thank you, Dr. Beverly. Thank you so much. A powerful, powerful, powerful.
I am
we have two more speakers on tonight's. I'm telling everybody to share this, share it, share it, share it, share it, and share it. We have our YouTube channel on Facebook, and when you get it, share it at the end so that people can hear and not miss the upcoming webinars that are coming up later this year from February through July. All right. Pastor Amir Khan is a serial entrepreneur and community leader and builder who has founded and led businesses across media, technology, healthcare logistics, and economic development. He is the co-chair of the Greater Camden County Renaissance Group, working to address employment training and economic empowerment for underserved populations. And also, he is the founder and CEO of New Beginnings Behavioral Health, one of New Jersey's leading organizations in addressing the reentry population, those that are returning back into their communities after incarceration. Also, he operates a 55-acre camp in New Jersey free of charge for individuals who are suffering from addiction. This is a residential program that would cost probably $30,000 a month, but he offers it for free of charge. I don't know a more committed person to this population than Pastor Amir Khan, who every Saturday joins with churches, including the Camden Seventh Adventist Church, in feeding the homeless, clothing the naked, and ensuring that those suffering from addiction have a place to go to recover. Pastor Amir Khan, God bless you. You have the floor.
Well, God bless you, Reverend Green. Thank you so much for that. It's so glad to be here. And Sister Jackie, always a pleasure. And this is such a great, great format. I love it when we are addressing mental health and trauma. Reverend Green gave in his introduction, talked about the programs that we run, 3 recovery homes in Camden with up to 65 men and women there, then another facility in Millville. They can go up to another 125. But when you're dealing with thousands and thousands of people, we run through hundreds and hundreds per year. But then when you're dealing with thousands over, the past 30 years doing this, and you hear the stories, you talk to them, you counsel, you obviously pick up on a whole lot. You see a lot of similarities. There's something that causes a person to go into homelessness. I was out with somebody just yesterday at an event, and the young man came up to me. He remembered me from years ago, and we helped him. And he said he and his wife are living outside, homeless in the woods by Campbell's Soup. And I said, man, it's like 4 or 5 degrees out there at night. Do you have a heater or anything? He said, no, just a tent. And, when you're dealing with that kind of mental health issues that will cause a person to be living out in 4 and 5 and 6 degree weather, you and I, we run to our heated car, we run to our heated home, and here's individuals that are living outside. So when you start talking to them, it all boils back down to something from their childhood or from their youth. And this all boils down to that root problem. And I think in our series coming up, and by the way, welcome aboard New Beginnings. A lot of our clients or residents are watching this today. They're actually having 2 of the homes, maybe 3. We actually have TV set up with the computers, and they're sitting around watching this event. So to those that are listening there and to the others, today is more of an introduction, like it was stated in the beginning, each person taking about 4 or 5 minutes to talk about their background, what they do, and then what they'll be talking about when it's featured on the upcoming webinar. So don't miss it. But I love dealing with our men and women and hearing the stories and then helping them, one, identify that root problem. Root problems are so crucial for that deliverance and healing in a person's life. Real quickly, I went to high school in Cherry Hill, then went on to Rutgers University, where our dear brother, Reverend Dr. Green, is now a board of trustees. A little shameless plug there. But anyway, when I was there on scholarship at Rutgers, I was on scholarship for wrestling, also played football. I remember one main game that we had. It was an important game, and I had this bad toothache. And with that bad toothache, I tried taking Tylenol, ibuprofen. I couldn't get a doctor's appointment to go to see the dentist until the following week. But we had that big game that Saturday. And the coach said, look, I don't really tell people normally to do this, but we need you bad. He said, I want you to take this little, I think he had whiskey or gin or whatever it was. He's on the sidelines, just, pop in your mouth, swish it around, and then spit it out. Don't drink it. He said, spit it out. He said, what it's going to do is going to numb that problem. I said, great. I'll try anything, coach. And did it, swish it around, spit it out, played the game. I was going to go through without any pain at all. It really did work. But I'll tell you what happened. Immediately when I got home, I stopped taking that whiskey or that gin, those shots. It stopped numbing it. It came right back. Why? Because I didn't deal with the root problem. One of the main things we see happening is people that don't deal with the root problem, they keep sweeping things under the rug, think eventually it will go away. It doesn't go away. It's like baby kids. They don't die, they multiply. And if you don't address and deal with those root problems, if you don't deal with identifying it, confessing it, there's a great scripture. It ties a little bit into this, but it says, he that covereth his sins shall not prosper, But that person that confesses and forsaken that sin or that fault or that shortcoming, they'll obtain mercy. If you really want mercy, if you really want to be blessed of God, when you start acknowledging this thing, confessing it, getting with a counselor. Man, I've been married 46 years, 3 beautiful kids, 9 grandkids, 1 great-grandchild. You know what? My wife and I, even to this very day, at 46 years later, if there's issues, we'll pick up the phone, got them on speed dial, we'll go to a counselor. You need a counselor, somebody to help walk you through the challenges and problems in your life. My time is up. I'm Pastor Amir Khan, and I'm a preacher that stuck to my 5-minute time limit. Hope to see you. Look, there's my alarm going off. Praise God.
Pastor Amir, I just want you to quickly, because when one of the things you're going to talk about in your upcoming seminar is trauma, but then redemption, and being around a community of people. You know, I like the statement, it takes the village to raise a child, but I think it takes the village to raise the village.
Yeah.
And it's a lifetime commitment. And through your work at New Beginnings, what I'm seeing is a community of caring individuals with resources that care for others to get them to a place where they believe in themselves to grab on to the redemptive power that is given to them by God. Can you just give a quick success story about something that happened to a couple of your guys on last week, and also about their buying of a home? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, and it really is. It's like a relay race, you know. It's the baton being passed to one person, the other person, and it really is a whole village that helps out. So it might be one person that gets the guard down, another person that counsels, talks to another person, helps them with job training or job readiness, starting businesses. But yeah, we have multiple people. I mean, Jay Rutherford, who now is one of our directors, who was in prison for 30 years, came out 2 years ago, got a job with us, started doing really well. Another person, Rashawn Prelude, helped him get his credit up, did real well, got an 800 some credit score. He was able to save up enough money, started renting an apartment, went ahead and got his license, bought a used car. And over the past year, he was able to then get a new car, started doing extremely well. And then he just bought his first home about 2 months ago. So he went from being in jail to getting an 800 credit score, working hard, pouring into other people. And that great scripture that says, after you've been converted, come back and strengthen the brethren. That's exactly what he's doing. Where he came from and how he messed up, that old song, I'm going to clean up where I messed up.
Yeah.
You know, and that's exactly what they're doing. But it took a whole lot of people, most of all God, but also his mother's one I really want to mention, who for 30 years while he was in jail, she never, ever, ever missed one weekend seeing her son in 30 years. And that says something. It takes a whole village to bring about that healing. And when you get healed, you'll stay healed. Hurt people, but heal people, heal people.
Amen. Powerful. Thank you so much, Bishop Amir Khan, New Beginnings Behavioral Health, and all the brothers and sisters in New Beginnings. Y'all know, I know you. God bless you. I look forward to seeing y'all soon. And just keep it up, because this is a new beginnings of your life. So God bless you as well. For all those that are listening in. Our last speaker, we are so honored to have Dr. Stephanie James Harris, historian and director, Africana Studies Program, Seton Hall University. Dr. Stephanie James Harris is the director of the Africana Studies Program at Seton Hall University. She's also the resident historian for the Interfaith Action Movement. Established in 1970, the Africana Studies Program at Seton Hall University is the oldest in New Jersey. She is an educator, historian, and proud advocate who has worked in various institutions for more than 25 years. She says her life's purpose is to always be a voice for our ancestors and the recounting of our collective history, culture, literature, politics, and economics to students in order to create global leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Dr. Stephanie James Harris.
Hello. I have like been on the edge of my seat because this conversation is so needed. 16 generations and everything that anyone has said. You know, I pride myself in always trying to be a very adaptive listener and thinking about the ways in which other people's examples or teaching and lessons can translate to the Black experience. And of all the conversations, this is the most powerful. I truly believe so, because 16 generations of enslavement, transatlantic enslavement across the globe, 12 in this nation. We've heard conversations about epigenetics and the reality of inherited trauma. We've heard conversations about the reality of racism as an adaptive methodology. We've heard the reality of the brutalities and the ways in which it rests in our body and disease. We know about the ways in which it structures and shifts our ability to regulate our blood and our blood pressure, and the way in which it destroys our body. We know the coping mechanisms and the ways in which we laughingly can talk about the ways African peoples have figured out a way to make it out of no way. We know about the performative nature that we have been forced to do and the adaptive nature of that performativeness and what it looks like. But we do not discuss the ways in which we need to remedy it. And I think this is such an incredibly important conversation. As I was listening, so I will say that my degrees are in Africana Studies and in English. I actually started off, I thought I was going to be an attorney, but I always loved to write and I always loved to read, and poetry has always been sort of my go-to. So I'm going to share a poem that was written in 1895 by a gentleman that was cloaked in his own trauma, who in his lived experience was a prophetic voice, but also one that had a very problematic existence with drug abuse, with alcoholism, with brutalities against his wife, but also was able to transcend that and see that as a manifestation of his experience under enslavement, under Jim Crow, and what that would mean. And the poem is this: we wear the mask that grins and lies, that hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile, with torn and bleeding hearts we smile. And mouth with mirrored subtleties. Why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs? Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. But smile. But, oh, great Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We sing, but oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet and long the mile. But let the world dream otherwise while we wear the mask. That poem you're probably familiar with is Paul Laurence Dunbar. It becomes the epicenter for Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. A lot of her poetry becomes very important. This becomes a conversation that's also translated in a lot of Langston Hughes poetry as well. But what's very important to me is I think it talks about the reality of this trauma, this duality, this performativeness that becomes a manifestation of the African-American experience in this nation. The trauma of enslavement is in our epigenetics. It is in the ways in which we mask, we live, we love, we deal, we parent, we're friends, we work, we fight, we everything. We have the adaptions, we know what they are, the myriad of diseases that affect us, but far too often we have not linked it to our history. So I've loved watching the continuation of this conversation. And I will share that I think that we also need to be very clear about the ways in which it does not just affect African Americans, but that it also, that reality of enslavement, that transatlantic trade, has affected a myriad of all the others that have touched it. I heard two studies this week that I'm going to quickly share with you that I hope will become a part of our conversations and become a part of the ways in which we're able to think about as we go through these trainings. Both of them were not African American centered as being the centered, as being, the main, but were a part of the reality of what it does to the others, in which we do not discover. And both of them were about white America. And they were about the conversations about what we were currently looking at and the ways in which there is a desensitization to our traumas and our hurts. One of them was about the reality of enslavement and young women and working in homes. And we've talked about the reality of what that must have mean in regards of rape and brutalization, isolation, having to move away from places of familiarity, workload at 4, 5, 6 years old, etc. But one of the things that the conversation was about the ability for white America under antebellum slavery to give to young white women, a young Black girl, to practice and exercise her racism on, to desensitize her and separate them, and to create a schism very, very early in her life. And what that would mean in regards of the later relationships and powers and dynamics and her desensitization. We do not talk about what that trauma is. The secondary one was about the reality of our genetics, our actual DNA. It was looking at the reality of DNA testing and the ways in which we need to accept as a nation that most African Americans, by way of rape, was so completely consumerate and a byproduct of everyday existence for such a long time, have white blood in us. So much so that it was not, when folks only commented on the reality of the brutalities of sexualization and rape and what that meant as a culture, when they came into America from other nations. It was not mentioned because they did not even consider it a brutality. But I heard today a reflection about who could heal. The young woman who would find that people would galvanize around her, that she saw her rapists persecuted, that there was healing and there was acknowledgement that was done, or one who was told to sweep it under the feet. Well, what do we do if there's an entire generation that is a everyday occurrence, so prevalent that it's not even thought of as something that should even be mentioned? It's almost a rite of passage for young Black women for 12 generations. 12. It is still encoded in our DNA, in our cellular structure, in our interactions. That trauma does not go away. And I'm so thrilled to be a part of this conversation, for us to really think about what that means, for us to be able to think about the manifestations and the adaptions, because we got to name first before we can heal. And the reality of wanting to heal this has got to also come in regards of cultural, spiritual, social, and historical. So I thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. And I'm just welcoming all these conversations.
Wow. Outstanding, outstanding, outstanding. Dr. Stephanie James Harris, thank you so much. You always bring the perspective, the historical perspective that I love. You know that 12 generations, y'all. 12 generations. That's up to my grandmother.
And we've only been 3 generations out.
Yeah, that's my grandmother.
The reality of the legacies. For most of us, 3 or 4 generations most. Think about the legacies that the things that you can directly correlate to your grandparents, right? Their hands, their mannerism, their everything. Why are we not correlating and understanding that they inherited 12 generations of trauma ahead of them that are also manifestations in us? What becomes the reality for our everyday existence?
Yeah.
And how do we adapt? How do we show up in the world? And we don't talk about that even in regards to restorative justice and reparations. That is also a reparation for us.
Yes, yes. And Dr. Stephanie, you sit on the reparations committee, right?
for the state of New Jersey. Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I was a part of the Faith and Black Resistance Committee for the
Yeah.
reparations report that we just did and released on Juneteenth of last year. And it became an analysis of really spelling out the damages historically, economics, and everything for people to be able to see the effectuations of enslavement and what those differentials have meant in regards of where we are today, because we're not dealing with where we are today. We tell small anecdotes and we tell the stories that make us feel better without looking at the across the board damaging, mass effects of what that system has done for us. And it is a global system that has not gone away, and it manifests differently contingent on where you are, because it goes from enslavement to Jim Crow in certain instances. In other instances, it goes from enslavement to colonialism. I mean, it can go from enslavement to caste systems. It can do a lot of things, but all of those isms, those institutionalisms, are still effectuating our everyday existence. And as we see these things recurring and a resurgence of them, my concern is we have not prepared our next generation of scholars behind us for living under those circumstances. Kids are traumatized and terror-struck and immobile about what to do about the reality of Jim Crow reemerging its head, because we did not prepare them to live in a Jim Crow world again. They do not know how to wear the mask. They have no idea what to do with overt racism. The way in which we are seeing it reemerge.
That's right. Well, as you all can see, we are dealing with trauma on many different levels. What a powerful, powerful exchange this evening. I'm going to have final words after we hear from my sister's Lighthouse founder and CEO, Sister Jacqueline Lighthouse. You're on mute, Sister Jackie.
I'm on mute.
There you go. We can hear you now.
Okay. Oh, wow. Amazing, powerful. Oh my God. All this history of intergenerational trauma that we all living in. And I often say that every time these women sit down in my chair, they come to me for one thing, but when I realize they're broken in many pieces, and then I remember who I was in them. And in order for me to fix myself, I had to go in my coat pocket, go under the bed, go in the closet where I left myself because of what my mama went through and my mama's mama went through that never talked about it. Believe it or not, everything you talked about today, oh my God, so important. This thing was thought about because of the fact that my grandmother said in 1968, when she died, she never wanted to go back to Moncks Corner, South Carolina, unless she was looking at the roof or the ceiling. Couldn't say a word. My mother said the same thing because of the trauma. And I felt the same way because of what I went through, because I lived there, because of the Southern tradition of keeping everything quiet and no one sticking up. But we are going to unravel those things throughout this series. And thank you guys, such wonderful speakers. Thank you for being so engulfed in this with all of us, because we need this information. We need to be able to help our children today, because believe it or not, through what's happened in Minnesota, it has triggered some anxieties in people from way back when. And this is what's happening. So we need to talk about this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you guys. I got to go because I got another meeting. So talk to you later. Love you all. Love you all. Thank you. Bye.
Love you back, Sister Jackie. God bless you and all that you're doing and all the lives that you're saying that you are saving in the great city of Newark and also around the state. We're praying with you and we support you 100%. I want to, I can't begin to thank our panelists, our seasoned participants enough. Let me first begin by doing some housekeeping notes. Number one, I want to thank our executive producer, Marilyn Rivera. I want to thank Green Consultants Special Projects Coordinator and Co-Executive Producer, Elise Hall, 2024 graduate of the Great Oakwood University. I say that because she's so young and she's an amazing person. And so is Marilyn. Marilyn has her own business, Conexion. And she is one of our leading marketing and public relations minds in the state. I also want to thank our technical director, Curtis Samoa, out of the great state of Texas, who I met at Afrotech. And he and his friend really took me to another level in technology on my phone, where my business card, Dr. Beverly, is on my phone now because of Dr. Curtis and his team, who put my website, everything on my phone, making me look like I know what I'm doing. And also, I want to thank my longtime executive assistant, who's been with me for 10 years through the governor's office, the first campaign, the governor's office, and the second campaign, Miss Irene Daniels, who is also one of our directors at the Interfaith Action Movement as well. I want to thank our moderator who introduced me, co-moderator, Trustee Brenda Lee. And I want to thank Dr. Beverly L. Robinson, Dr. Stephanie James Harris, Dr. Brandy Brandborough Walker, Pastor Amir Khan, Reverend Dr. Quavon Newton, and Jody, I know her as Lewis, as well, for being on this season opener for the Interfaith Action Movement and my sister's Lighthouse Let's Talk series. God bless everybody. Please share. Marilyn, as executive producer, you can come on. Just in case I miss anything, please share. Keep up with the upcoming events, when they're going to be. We're going to have 2 in person as well. We did confirm the great Dr. Chris Purnell is going to be NAACP Health Equities Director, the National Organization Health Equity Director, one of our nation's leading health advocates, is also going to be with us in person in Neptune, New Jersey, in the month, in either February or April. She confirmed with me last night. So we have a great season coming up. Thank everybody for joining and for listening. You have joined the Interfaith Action Movement, My Sister's Lighthouse Let's Talk series. God bless you, and we'll see you real soon.